Well, everything sucks. Welcome back to your Yankees Latest. I'm your host, John Laloggia. Yanks lose again, 8-4. This team is playing like absolute shit right now. Their pitching is thin. Their defense is fucking atrocious. They aren't playing with any life. Their manager seems to not give a shit. And the Yankees brass is essentially lodging a war against fandom and why fandom's bad. Fandom is irrational, but also we see what's happening with this team. They had a ton of errors last night. Rice had a huge error in a one-run game at first base. Dominguez also had an error. Dominguez doesn't seem to know how to play left field. Probably shouldn't be out there against your biggest rival right now in the division and the best team, one of the best teams in the American League. It's a huge problem. Volpe sucks at shortstop. They have no third baseman. And now your first baseman is making an error. Your left fielder seems to not know where the warning track is. And it's terrible. I'm not being hyperbolic. We've seen this team the last couple months. They play shitty defense. Has nothing changed from the World Series? The other teams laugh. The Toronto fans it's a joke. They're making fun of the Yankees. It's no different than what Chris Taylor and the Dodgers said about the Yankees. They're like, this team is the worst positioned outfield. They can't run the bases. They're slow and they make errors. So all we need to do, our game plan in this World Series, is to just make contact and make them field the ball. The Yankees can't field bunts either. In that respect, there's a couple teams that can't field bunts. I saw a couple bunts last night. Teams just don't know how to field it. It seems that all of the young players that come up have absolutely had no training, this is what you do in this situation. I don't know what the player development is like down in the minors, but when guys come up to the big leagues and play, it seems like they have absolutely no idea what they're doing or what to do in key situations. Judge hit a home run last night, but who cares? This team's going to get fucking pounded in the playoffs. If they make the playoffs. They should, but the Red Sox won in late innings again last night. So your second place lead, that's also evaporating in the AL East. And this team just has no fire. I'm not going to say they don't care. Obviously, they care and they want to win. But they're playing terribly right now. And their manager isn't worried. But I am. They have no pitching. Their pitching is thin. They have no defense. They have no life. And I was listening to Boone's talk yesterday. I think it might have been on John Boy talking Yanks, but he and then a bunch of foul territory and a variety of other places picked it up. But he was just like, well, yeah, we're hanging in there and we're doing the best we can and I get it. That's what he has to say. The reason he's had his longevity is because he doesn't piss off players. That is a great way to keep your job in 2025 or today's game. Don't upset players. You're going to keep your job for a long time. Obviously, he's playing with house money right now since he went to the World Series last year when they were completely overmatched by the Dodgers. I didn't think at no point did I think they were going to win that World Series. At no point. The Dodgers were clearly a better team in pretty much every facet. The only way the Yankees are going to win is if they out-homered the Dodgers, and pretty much that entire lineup can hit homers, and their first three hitters are future, not All-Stars, future Hall of Famers, and Freeman, Betts, and Ohtani. So you have to play sound baseball. Things are getting tight. You need to run the bases well. You need to know what you're doing in key situations. You need to know where the fucking warning track is, Jason Dominguez. And then you also can't make errors. You're shortstop. You're arguably the most important defensive player on the team, other than center field, I would argue. Cannot make errors. You cannot lead the American League in errors, Anthony Volpe. It's unacceptable. You will not go far in October if you play this brand of baseball. It's sloppy. It lacks attention to detail. And frankly, it lacks fire. This team seems to not give a shit. And that brings me to my next point, which stems from the manager. I'm talking to Yanks. Boone was like, I don't care what the fans think. I totally get that. I really do. From his perspective, why does he give a shit what the fans think? Because, the press and the fans are going to be like, this team is playing like shit. And then he has to go in and say, hey, we're good. We're doing a good job. And I understand that. He can't look like he's panicking. He can't look like he's angry or frustrated, because that's like what being a manager is now in today's game. It's interesting. I'm reading a book by the late Scott Miller. It's called Skipper. I've read a lot of analytics books, but this one is essentially breaking down just the history and lineage of managers, and it starts from like Earl Weaver, Billy Martin, Sparky Anderson, Tommy Lasorda, and how they would just rip guys and get on them. And I think in certain times that's helpful. But nowadays you cannot do that. So Boone, I understand that Boone is in a really tough spot. This is a very, very difficult job to have. The manager of the New York Yankees, the head coach of Notre Dame football, the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. There's certain coaching jobs in sports that are really, really difficult. That being said, it seems like a guy that's just trying to keep the front office happy, keep his boss happy, and give the public and fans a line of bullshit. And I get it, and he's good at it, and there's a reason he's had his job. However, he clearly does care what the fans think, because he got pissed off. He's annoyed by this. And I think he is because I think he knows his team's not playing well. He knows they can't play defense. He knows they're lacking fire. And hopefully, behind closed doors, he's lighting a fire under their ass, saying this is unacceptable. You need to play better. There has to be better attention to detail. Is he having meetings with his player development staff or people in the minors being like, how come Jason Dominguez doesn't know where the outfield wall is or where the warning track is? Anthony, maybe work on your footwork. Work on your release. Take some extra ground balls. If we're going to play Ben Rice at first base, Ben, take some extra practice at first, ranging to your left, ranging to your right, scoops. Ben Rice has to be in there because of his bat. And I understand that you have to DH Stanton, but I think Rice should be in there, but you need to work on these things, and they just lack some of this attention to detail. So when Boone says, I don't care what the fans think, he does, because he's pissed off. But he won't do a fucking thing about it. He won't come to these players. And I'm not saying rip them, but I'm saying this is unacceptable. You have to be better. We need to be better. And contacting with the various people, the billions of dollars that are being spent with this organization, whether with Fishman, the analytics department, or the player development staff, or the coaching, saying, this is unacceptable. This can't happen anymore. Write down notes. Like, this is what I didn't like. This is what I saw. And then make adjustments. But I feel like he's never going to address this stuff with the players. He's going to give the fans and media a line of bullshit. Be like, oh, yeah, everything's fine. It's great. Awesome. Pat on your back. He was hired to be the team's big brother. And I don't think it's helping. Like, I really don't. This is a lack of attention to detail, expertise, knowing what to do in key situations, and then frankly fundamentals, fielding routine ground balls, making plays that big leaguers make. And in situations like this, I don't think it's helpful that Boone is like, everything's fine, whatever. Like, and also like, just own it, Aaron Boone. Like, you do care what fans think because you're getting pissed off. And he did say, he goes, everyone's pissed off because we're losing. That's why. That's the animosity. Absolutely. But it's not just that the team's losing. It's the way you're losing. And that is what fans are upset about. And that's what fans don't like, is the lack of transparency when you're saying, oh, no, we're a good team, whatever. It's like, yeah, we got it. Don't be so sensitive. Like, you are a good team. It's not that you're losing. Yes, it's you're losing. It's the way you're losing. That is what's concerning. That's what's concerning to me. That's what's concerning to the fan base. And I know you don't care what fans think. You do, because you're getting upset about it. Because you know deep down that this is a problem. And you probably don't like it either. So maybe you should speak up and say something in private. You don't have to tell us. Tell us through the play. Tell us through each game we watch every night. Tell us that you're actually saying something behind closed doors when we see Dominguez playing a better left field, or we're seeing Rice come up with routine plays, or we see Volpe stop making throwing errors and fielding errors. That's when we will understand and say, okay, there's conversations being had behind closed doors. I don't need to see people throwing barrels of seeds and getting ejected. I know he got ejected the other night. Like, that doesn't impress me. Like, I know some fans want to see that fire. I want to see, like, fire to me is, I want to see adjustments. I want to see improvement. Yeah, I want to see, like, you give a shit. And part of, like, everyone getting on Boone and then he gets ejected, part of me is like him thinking like, all right, like, I honestly don't give a shit, like, what happens. Like, I'll just get ejected this game, and maybe that'll get people off my back saying, oh, well, Boone did get ejected, so, he does care. I think he plays into that. I think sometimes he just decides, I don't want to hear from these people anymore, so I'm just going to get ejected, but I'm going to continue doing what I think is best for the team. He'll never admit that, but I do think sometimes he does that if things are getting hot and people like me are saying this team has no fire and Boone doesn't give a shit. He'll be like, you know what, I'll get myself tossed, but at no point is he going to come at the players. And I think you don't have to rip players, but you have to have a one-on-one conversation with them and behind closed doors saying, we need to make adjustments here. If you want to play left field, if you want to play shortstop, these are things you have to get better at. And if you don't, you're not going to be on the field. It's just as simple as that. And I don't think he's doing it. I don't think he'll ever do it. And we're just going to have to watch this shitty brand of baseball. And it's infuriating. What will the Yankees need to give up at the deadline? Well, I saw on Twitter that after the Diamondbacks lost, Suarez was like sort of just staying in the dugout. Eugenio Suarez, like, sort of taking it all in, being like, oh, this is it. So he could have already been dealt, and we just don't know it yet. But that's number one. We've talked about it a lot. I don't care about Ryan McMahon or Brian Hayes. That's what I want. Starting pitching, Mitch Keller is a huge target that I really, really think they should get. They're probably going to have to give up players like Dominguez, who do have a high upside. Good luck trying to teach him to play left field. George Lombard Jr. and Spencer Jones, those are tough, especially when you know Volpe sucks and he's clearly not your future shortstop. I do think they'll deal Spencer Jones. They're going to have to get something really, really good to give up George Lombard Jr. I don't know. He might be the only guy that's untouchable. But I mean, the players that are in most demand are Dominguez Jr. and Jones. So I think the Pirates really want Jones, who's been on a power surge in AAA. So sending top farm talent remains a difficult decision for Cashman, but I think you have to do it after last night's performance. You do need some better infielders. So you do need Suarez. You have to get someone at third base, and you probably need another starter. The Yankees also, for bullpen, have been linked to David Bednar from the Pirates. I think the Pirates know that they just don't have the talent in the farm system. They also don't want to pay money because they're a cheap organization. So they can give Keller up to the Yankees or Bednar, but if they can get Dominguez, Lombard Jr., and Jones, I think they'd make that trade. Because I think they're going to keep Skeens. I think they want to keep O'Neal Cruz, even though there was some trade rumors that they might move him. Because I think they're feeling it from the fan base. Like, we have this once-in-a-generation pitcher, and he's just, on an island on a crappy team. So I do think there's incentive for them to actually make a big deal. But we'll see. I mean, Suarez and Keller are being pursued by a bunch of different teams. But Gallen is also rumored. But you got to get Suarez. That's number one. Bednar would be great. And you're going to have to give – Cashman has to give up some big prospects. He does. I'm not saying George Lombard Jr., but I'm saying you're in a win-now window. If he comes up short at the deadline, if you think fans are on the Yankees now, wait till after July 31st. It's going to be a lot worse. Sorry, it's a negative episode, but I can't lie about what I see. I think you all see the same thing, and it has to change. Thank God the Yankees have an off day today, so we get just a chance to not watch a shitty brand of baseball for a night and, give ourselves 24 hours to relax, maybe watch some Netflix. And then they have a huge 3-game series this weekend against Philly. That should be awesome. Can't wait for that. And I'll be here to recap that for you. And I'll be back tomorrow with any breaking news as far as the trade deadline, rumors. I'm on Twitter 24/7, so I'll let you all know. That's been your Yankees Latest. I'm your host, John Laloggia, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.